In this special year-end edition of LTC News, a look back at some of the most compelling stories of 2016.
Then they would take the dye and they would dump it into the canal.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to LTC News. I'm your news anchor, Al Gentile, and here I am with LTC Director of Municipal Programming, Brian Dorrington. Brian, if you don't know, writes and hosts the City Council Synopsis each week. Brian, how are you?
I'm great, Al. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Love the new glasses, by the way. Instantly adds like 5 points to your IQ right off the bat. Very intellectual.
Thank you. New year, new me, right?
Absolutely. All right, hello. LTC News launched the first Thursday of September. It has proved to be quite popular both on TV and online. We really appreciate our partnership with the Lowell Sun because their interviews can give a more in-depth look at the more important issues in the city. The shorter segments in the first half of the show are produced every week by LTC staff, community members, and the Khmer Post about local events, organizations, and topics that can be covered quickly. Today, we are going to go down memory lane with a look back at some of our favorite segments of 2016.
Let's start with the September story by Shomita Acharya on the amazing public art exhibit by Barbara Poole. It consisted of colorful fabric panels hung in the arches along the Hamilton Canal.
I'm Barbara Poole. I'm a visual artist and I work in a number of different mediums. Right now I have been for the last 8 years working in textiles, specifically felt. The project I'm working on right now, the title for it is Veils of Color for Lowell, the Venice of America. That used to be Lowell's moniker, where they would call the Venice of America because of all the canals. People came from around the world to see the marvels of industry happening here, which is why I moved up here. I love the bones. When you take the canal tour, you go through a section of the canal that's called the Urban Canyon. And as you enter the Urban Canyon from the swamp walks into the Hamilton Canal, on your right side you will see the architectural remnants. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but that's what I call it. Part of that building used to be what they called the dyer's building. It was where the cloth was taken, it was white goods is what they called it, but they would bring it to this building and they would dye it, whatever color they were. And then they would take the dye and they would dump it into the canal. And I've seen pictures of the canal being red, yellow, I imagine it was other colors too. And the idea, I mean, this is pre-environmental, so they didn't know. They didn't know what they were doing was really an environmental disaster, which is why a lot of it is a cleanup site. They didn't realize this. But I love the visual idea of this ribbon of color running through. And when I took the tour, I noticed that people, they couldn't quite see it. So I wanted to pay homage to that. I wanted to create a visual dictation of dumping the dye into the canal, hence these veils. And I wanted it to be transparent enough so that when you can see through it. When the light actually hits this, all you really see is the color. It looks like it's going to be pouring out of the window, this with nothing holding it together, just pouring down. We're going to be installing a total of 35 veils. I don't think we'll get them all done today. I plan to do it over 2 days. It involves climbing 20-foot ladders. The panels themselves are 18 feet long. 4 feet of it are on the inside, then the rest of it flips out into the window, onto the canal side without touching the canal. It's about the high water mark in the canal. And right now we're working on we started with the primary colors, we're going to the secondary colors, and then the next group of colors will be the complementaries, and then the next group after that will be the analogous, and then split complementaries and triads and quads, and it's just going to be this canyon of color to this urban canyon that's just usually hard brick.
Wow, that was pretty great. That's actually right outside my apartment.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it's like 100 feet away from me. I can see all the veils, and actually one of them is still underwater. and it's actually now frozen because of how cold it is. But yeah.
I have to say, I loved the idea of that installation of sort of the inks from the fabric mills sort of going into the river. It really sort of ties in a lot with Lowell's identity as a mill town. So
right, and I love public art exhibitions. The more the better. Okay, next story. The Kinetic sculpture race on September 24th brought thousands of spectators into Lowell for the first of what we expect to be an annual event. Teams from Lowell and around the country came together to race their wildly imaginative, pedal-powered vehicles through a mud pit, over the Merrimack River, and across the finish line downtown.
This is absolutely exciting. There's a lot of energy down here, some zany things going on behind us, but I'll tell you what, pretty exciting place to be, the city of Lowell, nowhere else.
We're here at the Songus Center at the maddening mud pit. It looks like the racers are just about to make their way through. How's it going so far, Mayor?
I think it's going great. This is a great day for Lowell, and this is a great event. This is a type of event that we need more of, but this event, I think everybody's interested in growing this event to make it be even bigger next year, and it should be an annual event.
And here comes the iconic flying fish. We want to make sure that they don't have the same difficulty they did at the maddening mud pit. They're coming in strong. They're getting the push. He's a little wobbly, and he's going right in. He's now got those paddles. He's pushing the wheels with his feet. I'm here with one of the other organizers of the Lowell Kinetic sculpture race, Michael Roundy. How do you feel looking around you with all of this?
I'm overwhelmed. I'm amazed. There's so many people that came out today, and I'm really proud and happy about it. I mean, it's amazing, and it's nice to see so many people as enthusiastic about kinetics as I am.
LTC here at the finish line, and we have the judges coming first through on a Jeep, which is not a vehicle that's actually participating in the race, but they are coming through right now, lording over their kingdom. And we have Cheetah coming first. It's your race, and I'm here with one of the organizers, Bianca Moreau. Bianca.
I couldn't be happier, Al.
Everywhere we've gone so far today, people have said this is an absolute smashing success. How do you feel?
I can't stop smiling. This is permanent.
Yeah.
This is permanent. I cannot stop smiling, and the feedback we've received so far has been so amazing, and I'm overjoyed, and I can't believe how many people I have seen out here today.
It's another great piece. You were kind of like the star of that one, Al. You did a lot there.
yeah, no, and I did the suit and jacket and everything, and it had to be, I don't know, 80 degrees or so.
Yeah.
So it was a long, hot day.
It's dedication. And I like the mud pit. Next year I'm hoping to do like a wet cement pit.
Yeah.
That'd be a little bit more interesting, I think.
Yeah, the hot summer feels like a long time ago. We've had some good precipitation since then, but they were pretty severe drought conditions all summer long. This report by Caroline Gallagher looks at Lowell's somewhat different experience of the drought.
Most drought conditions cause to groundwater, which are wells, and the city of Lowell actually gets its water from the Merrimack River.
Mill City Grow's urban farmer Lydia Sisson agrees. Growing crops near a river has clear advantages.
because we're right next to our water source, which is a river. Other farmers and other towns that rely on wells and irrigation ponds, they were drying up.
The river begins its flow in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, makes its way to the city of Lowell to its intake station, and on to the water treatment plant.
We treat it and we send it out to the residents of the city of Lowell for water use, washing their cars, laundry, food.
With much of eastern Massachusetts experiencing extreme drought conditions, the Department of Environmental Protection recently issued some notices to local water utilities.
This is the first time that I've actually gotten a newsletter from the DEP saying there's drought warnings and conditions. So we've really been on top of it, watching our river levels, and we really haven't had any issues at all.
Lower rainfall levels, combined with this season's high temperatures, did, however, present different issues for farmers.
We lost most of our lettuce this summer, so everything that we were putting out would basically just die because of the heat. A lot of our weeds have been adapting to the drought more than the crops actually do.
I think parsley is the big one. I don't know if they harvested sage from Middlesex. They're going to be here in a few minutes, so.
We've actually still had a pretty good year, and we've been able to adjust based on some of the things that were happening. So all of our lettuce dying, we were putting in quick greens like arugulas and things like that.
The urban farm on Pawtucket Boulevard uses drip irrigation to provide efficient watering.
Right now, it's one of the more efficient technologies. So you're bringing water pressure way down and running it through lines that have little holes, and that's allowing the direct contact with the surface, so you're not having all that evaporation that overhead watering has.
For the at-home gardener, Sisson recommends watering early in the morning, but more importantly, drought or not, to be mindful of conserving water wherever you can.
You do have to just be really cautious about how much water you're using as well, because it's a big ecosystem we're working with when we're talking about water.
That was a great piece by Caroline. I learned a lot on that. Urban farming's really interesting, something I don't know much about.
Yeah, and I thought it was great to sort of get into the ingenuity that urban farmers are developing as far as their techniques to work with drought conditions.
Yeah, no, very interesting.
Yeah.
Great job, Caroline.
Now, Brian, we also have to include one of your wonderful reports on city government. You keep us informed each week without having to attend all the meetings, some of which can last for hours. The piece we included in today's show is your take on Lowell's particular government structure.
Hello and welcome to this week's City Council Synopsis segment. The title of this segment is a little misleading as there was no City Council meeting this week and therefore nothing for me to synopsize.
Great job.
Instead, I will ask and attempt to answer a question. What exactly is a City Council? Great question, Brian. Lowell uses what's called a Plan E form of government, which consists of a city council and a city manager. The council is the legislative body of the city, comprised of 9 members who serve 2-year terms. Of those 9 councilors, 1 is voted mayor by the rest of the council. The council is guided by the city's charter, which is the legal document by which the city is founded upon. Consider it the local version of the U.S. Constitution. The council is in charge of hiring the city manager, who oversees the city's day-to-day operations. In addition, the council hires a city clerk, who serves as an administrator for the council, and a city auditor, who is responsible for managing much of the city's finances. The city council votes on proposed budgets, bonds, grants, ordinances, and much more. Any member of the council can bring forth a motion for the rest of the council to vote on. The passage of a motion requires a majority vote. Motions are generally presented in the form of requests to city staff, departments, or subcommittees and involve a variety of issues. An example of some recent motions are a request for the city manager and solicitor to develop an ordinance to increase fines for illegal dumping, a request for the city manager to look into an ordinance regulating Airbnb in the city, and a request for the zoning subcommittee to look into information defining in-law apartments in the city. I mentioned earlier that the City of Lowell operates using a Plan E form of government, which uses an all-at-large election process. Every 2 years, the top 9 candidates with the most votes are elected, regardless of what part of the city they live in. This all-at-large election process is the cause of much controversy. Most cities operate electing a mix of at-large and district-based councilors. Opponents of the all-at-large process believe that we should move towards electing a mix of at-large district or ward-based councilors to ensure each section of the city is equally represented. Supporters of the all-at-large election process argue that for a Plan E government form to work, councilors need to do what's best for the city as a whole and not just for the district in which they would represent. At the end of the day, the City Council's most basic and fundamental function is to represent you. Not some of you, not most of you, all of you. You can vote them in and you can vote them out. So if you're like me and you want to be represented by people who share your values and beliefs, do your research, go to the meetings, vote, and most importantly, watch City Council Synopsis every week on LTC News. Well, that's all I have for today. I hope this was at least mildly helpful for some of you. If there are any errors in my presentation, I apologize. Feel free to mail in your written complaints along with a $20 donation to LTC at 246 Market Street. We accept cash, credit, checks, and restaurant gift cards. The Council resumes their weekly meeting schedule next week, so you can expect a full synopsis on next week's episode of LTC News. Thank you for watching. Back to you, Al.
As far as sitting through all of those meetings, Brian,
Love it.
You love it. Yeah,
it is. I do love it. Sometimes it gets boring, but it is entertaining sometimes as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're all very, I'll tell you right now, as a reporter myself, I'm sure that people really do appreciate, the time that you put into it, especially the quick turnarounds.
Yeah, it is tough, and I never really considered myself a reporter until you said it, but I guess I sort of am reporting. All right, let's get something to a little bit more interesting in city government. Robots are all the rage these days, and a very important one named Valkyrie lives at UMass Lowell's New England's Robot Validation Center. I think I said that right. We spent a little time getting to know Valkyrie back in October. She's a 6-foot-tall humanoid robot weighing 300 pounds, and she's one of only 4 models in the entire world. Her hardware was built by NASA in a joint program with Northeastern. She's being taught to interact with humans in order to perform tasks and repairs in space.
We are developing systems for the robot to allow it to walk, balance, manipulate objects, perform tasks that would be performed, say, on the space station or in a shelter later, in another planet.
They want this to culminate in one of them being able to go to Mars and set up a habitat for humans.
One thing that our lab really focuses on is human-robot interaction, meaning the way that a person can communicate and interact with a robot, either when they're co-located, meaning they're together, or when they're remote. Valkyrie is going to be a very remote robot, right? The idea is going Earth to Mars or somewhere in space. So what we're really focusing on is ways we can interact with her and see through her eyes.
I've been recently working on getting Valkyrie to be able to tell where the floor is, which is useful when you're teleoperating her, because if you want her to tell Valkyrie just like walk over there, she can do decisions like there's a step in the way. Should I actually go around it? Maybe it's big enough that I can actually step over it and walk on top of it.
So what we're focusing on is a way that a human can give her commands that she can understand and interpret to act autonomously, but also have a way for a person to tell her how to do that properly. If we want to pick up an object, we have a way to give her that command. She can use her autonomy to go and do it. And she kind of understands what we want, we understand the status of her, kind of that relationship. But also we're going to be developing the different types of tests that she needs to use for NASA's Space Robotics Challenge. So repairing a satellite dish, fixing a habitat, fixing a rover, things that you would encounter, say, on a space station, or like The Martian, what Matt Damon was doing minus potato farming. The smartest thing that Valkyrie does right now is she can identify points in space and interact with them.
It's a pretty unique opportunity to be working on one of these. There's only 4 of them in the world, so that's the most exciting part. That we're doing stuff that has not really been done much before we try it. NASA decided for Valkyrie to be female. Sometimes people get weirded out when I say she instead of it, because it's a robot, so you will usually use it to refer to it. But Valkyrie it's been introduced to us as a female.
Typically we do not gender our robots, because in general when someone is controlling the robot, you might think of the robot as an extension of that person.
I would like to see Valkyrie being able to do minor repairs or even major repairs on herself. Like, it will be really cool to see her using one arm to fix something that's wrong on the other one. That will be nice to see. I will like that.
I think it's incredible, you know, sort of part of the big comeuppance of Lowell is its technology sector growing at UMass. Some of the footage in that is, you know, interesting, but also kind of scary at the same time.
Yeah, it's a great piece. I just want to know why they keep making humanoid robots. Like, I think you should add more limbs, like maybe like a centaur with 4 legs and like a Vishnu with several arms.
Just so it's not so close. Yeah.
Like, they're too human for me. Anyway.
Yeah, probably one of my favorite holidays was Thanksgiving. And the Thanksgiving show had a story on the new statue in Cambodia town. Bringing all the massive stone sculpture all the way from Cambodia was a labor of love by the Cambodian community.
For Cambodians around the world, the religious sites in the jungle of northern Cambodia, near the town of Siem Reap, represent the finest period of Khmer culture. Built in the 12th century, the magnificent temple complexes of Angkor Wat, Bayun, and Ta Prohm attract more than 1 million visitors each year and are a source of pride for all Cambodians. Here in Lowell, the Cambodian community wanted to bring a bit of their homeland to America. They commissioned a sculpture based on the mammoth structures at the Bayun Temple. The sculpture was installed in September and blessed in a ceremony at the site on Middlesex Street. According to Sobin Pin of the Khmer Post, the project brought the Cambodian community together.
This statue came to Lowell in September this year, and they did a ceremonial to install this when it arrived. And this mainly fundraised by community and business group and local in this area. The Cambodian people who came to the ceremony that day, the way I saw it was people were simply felt, some of them were crying, some others were crying, because they felt really touched in their heart. This is where they can feel a sense of home and belonging. When they first started about 3 years back, the Cambodian government wanted to make a gift, and then the residents and people came together. They said they did not want that, and they wanted to privately raise the money and to purchase their own, and finally they made that happen. It was commissioned the carved by artists in Cambodia, along with the Ministry of Culture. I know was carefully monitored, make sure this replica was aligned with the Bayan temple in Cambodia, Siem Reap. In Cambodia, and this is the same stone as was used to build Angkor Wat. This statue is not Buddha. It actually, the face is widely known as face of our King Jayavarman VII. He was the one that built the Angkor Wat temple in Cambodia, and this Bayan statue is it's a reconciliation between Buddhism and Hinduism. So the 4 faces represent for peace, harmony, forgiving, and compassion. Down here you see the lotus. So you will see a lot of that, and I think lotus also means in our culture purity.
The sculpture project was organized by Cambodia Town Lowell Incorporated, and its cost, about $100,000, was completely funded by private donations. The sculpture is one part of the city's master plan for the revitalization of the area by creating an economic and cultural district called Cambodia Town. It's a beautiful symbol of the vitality of the Cambodian community in Lowell.
It must have been such an incredible feat to try and transport that statue all the way to Lowell. I really do hope that they had their Amazon Prime membership.
Yeah, no, it's amazing that they were able to raise their own money, $100,000. They actually turned down money from the Cambodian government. It's great. It's a great piece. I look forward to what they're going to do with Cambodia Town in the future.
Yeah.
All right, our next story. The African immigrant community in Lowell has grown large enough to need its own community center. With the support of the Theodore Edson Parker Foundation and Community Teamwork Incorporated, the community now has the space they need. On October 29th, the African Community Center held a ribbon-cutting ceremony to celebrate the opening of their new home on Merrimack Street.
We were simply looking for a small established office space that will serve as our base to meet with those seeking our assistance and make them feel at home.
It's important for people to have support services or have a place where they can go to get the lay of the land and find out what's available to them and what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And so centers like this are really important. And I commend CTI for having the extra space available and being able to offer it to the African Community Center.
The entire city of Lowell extends its deepest wishes to the African Community Center of Lowell as you fulfill your vision of helping new immigrants and refugees become responsible citizens and caring, successful leaders for future generations.
Father, we pray that this place will be used to bring your people together, that Africans will be united, oh God. We pray, oh God, that people will come from the east, west, north, and south and be helped in this place. May it be the beginning of greater things to come.
The world comes to Lowell, Massachusetts, and no better representation than this morning's ceremony and all the good work that I know that will happen here in helping those who are making their way here transition to life in this country.
3, 2, 1.
I declare this agency, the African Community Center of Lowell, to be dedicated to the glory of God and to the service of all God's children.
Contributions of immigrants is ingrained in the heartbeat of Lowell. This city represents one of very few places in this country that immigrants can be embraced and made to truly feel a part of their community. We are indeed an all-American city.
My husband, Paul Songas, was a first-generation American who rose to run for the presidency of the United States. It's a remarkable legacy of this, an opportunity that this country represents, and the refuge for those who are seeking peace and security from challenging countries around the world.
Just another step in Lowell becoming a more inclusive community. I think it's incredible.
It's awesome. Lowell is a very diverse community, and I'm glad. And the mayor is absolutely everywhere. Is he a triplet? And we just don't know. He's absolutely everywhere.
He has some sort of replicant, to sort of cover it.
He really does. And I love the drumming in that. It's really a great thing.
Yeah. And sort of like the way that we're talking about all these different events, it's really part of the mission of LTC News, community creating media, media creating community. And that wraps it up for this year in review edition of LTC News. We here, for our first year, want to thank you, the viewers, for giving us all of the support and your time to watch our weekly broadcasts. And I personally want to say thank you for allowing me to be your news anchor. We'll see you in 2017, and as always, be well.
Be swell.